Hello, everyone. This is me, Professor Woods. Let me see if I can turn my video on. Hello, briefly from me. Let me go ahead and share my screen and go to the second in our series of training sessions on entrepreneurship and innovation for our NSME students. So let me go ahead and move things around and go to slideshow. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn off my video for now. And now we can just see the screen. So what we wanted to talk about in this one is translating scientific details into lay terms. And I think this is one of the most important skill sets for scientific students, for engineering students, biology, chemistry, to have is to be able to take the incredible value that you all know how to create and express it in terms that business partners, customers, investors, all of the people that you need to work with in order to make money off of scientific value, how to communicate with those people in terms that they will understand. So moving on to there's only like a couple slides in here. This is not a very long presentation, but it's an important one. So first thing, you got to make a list. So I really, I think in the first session, I talked about thinking outside the box in the context of taking initiative, thinking outside the box, solving problems while remaining relentlessly diligent, open-mindedly humble, and transparently cooperative. So the thinking outside the box part, super important as the starting point. So you've got all of the different features and functionality of a particular technology that you're working on. And what you're trying to do is get that into a big brain dump list, both features and then pushing yourself to think about benefits as well. So if I can think of an example, one example that I'm pretty familiar with for the last couple of years is a particular type of patent that the Air Force has called carbon-carbon. And this is a particular type of carbon fiber, which is extremely heat resistant and extremely inert at low temperatures. So, the actual like polymer construction, or the exact chemical makeup of this substance, is perhaps what a lot of engineering students would think of first. And so that's fine. Like, if it's a polymer, then write that down. If it's a polymer that contains particularly large amounts of, let's say, titanium linked between the carbon molecules, then write that down. If it is particularly malleable or brittle, put those things down. Put down whatever comes to your mind as a feature of that chemical compound, or whatever the invention is. If it's something biological, if it's something chemical, if it's something mechanical oriented, if it's a software program of some kind. First step is just to do a big old brain dump of all of the features that comprise that invention or that piece of technology. And once you've got as many of those features as I'm talking about on the left-hand side here of that technology written down, then push yourself to think more about the functionality or the benefits. So if you think about the example that I chose, carbon-carbon, you may have started with the fact that it is a particular type of polymer, which links carbon and titanium molecules with each other. You may have written down that it has a certain like tensile strength or whatever. If you then push yourself to think about that as a functionality rather than a detail, that polymer chain of carbon and titanium atoms has a certain melting point. And if that melting point is higher than many other melting points, then a benefit or a function of that piece of technology is that it can get really hot and not melt. If it is very inert, then that means that it's not going to corrode. So try and push yourself after thinking of the brain dump of scientific or technical features, details of the technology. Push yourself to think about what benefit does that have in the real world? Is it strong? Is it like very heat resistant? Is it non-interactive? Is it malleable? Is it porous? What kind of benefits does the particular technology have? And once you've got that entire list brain dumped and done, then move on to step 2, which is translating that list. So take a look at every word, every concept that you wrote down in step 1, and try and find an everyday metaphor that describes it. And then ask yourself, if someone with no technical knowledge whatsoever could understand the word or the concept or the benefit or the detail technologically based on the metaphor. And an example of this that I like to use is a recent medical example from talking with doctors about a medical issue that my mother's been having. So my mother has had a tumor next to her liver, and that tumor is pressing on the veins that lead to and from the liver, and in turn the veins that lead back up from the legs. So there's a lot of medical terminology that the doctors threw at me that people like I didn't understand at first, but having done a lot of this translating of scientific terms into lay terminology, I tried to take what they told me and rephrase it back to them in a metaphor, and then ask them, is this correct or not? And so what they basically said was that there was, in one example, there was excess fluid that was compressing the lungs. And I didn't understand where the excess fluid is coming from. So I thought about, what does a liver do? Like where, what goes in and out of the liver? And basically there's a whole bunch of fluid that comes along with the blood that comes out of your heart, and the fluids that need to be cleaned go through the liver. And it's a lot like a highway. So I basically described it as a highway, and I said all of the liquids that need to be cleaned out of the blood, they basically take the exit ramp at the liver, right? And then since the tumor is there, it's basically making the exit ramp, instead of 2-3 lanes, it's down to like 1 lane with very slow traffic. And that means that all the extra fluids that have to get off the liver exit basically are backed up in a big in a big traffic jam. And that traffic jam is basically pushing cars up back against my mom's lungs. And those cars are taking up space that the lungs would otherwise have to breathe with. So she's having some trouble breathing. And, you know, you can say excess fluid leading to pulmonary constriction, which is all correct. Or you can say the liquids that are getting off at the liver exit are all backed up in traffic, and that traffic is like jamming up into the parking lot that's usually used by the lungs. The second one is a lot easier to understand for most regular people than the first one. So very like diligently, word by word, concept by concept, once you've got that list of features and to the extent possible benefits, like it's super hot, or it can be really hot, or it won't melt, or it won't corrode, or it's very malleable. You need to like phrase those, or in the case of this medical terminology, basically the surgery that takes out the tumor is going to remove the traffic jam. So every one of those benefits, like, you know, if the benefit were actually improved blood flow, the way you explain that metaphorically is saying that the traffic jam has been removed. And push yourself with every word, every concept to describe it in an everyday metaphor like that. And if you run it by somebody in your family or your friend network who's not particularly scientific and they can understand it, then you're good. If that metaphor is still not helping people to understand the technical topic that you're trying to explain, you got to go back and keep trying. So that's step 2 in the process. When you're done with step 2, and it may take you a while, you then need to reach out and do some communication with other people rather than pushing yourself to articulate things in a big list. So once you've got your list of metaphorical features and benefits, you need to contact us at the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, CEI, right here. And we'll put you in touch with some businesses that probably have some needs that correspond with the features and benefits that your technology has. And you need to reach out to these various businesses. We can connect you with entrepreneurs in our accelerator that do this as well. But basically, the process of going from scientific value or technological value to dollars and cents and a business, you have to connect all those features and benefits with a business need. And most businesses do not realize what problems and needs they have that your technology can solve, because they don't know the technology exists in the first place and they don't understand how it works. So you need to go out with very general and broad questions to a sample of 10, 20, even 50 businesses, and just ask various contacts that we put you in touch with or that you find on your own. The process is the same, whether you get assistance from our entrepreneurship accelerator or not. You need to ask businesses, what kind of problems are they facing? You know, everybody that runs a business has some kind of problem. Even for businesses that are going well, Google, as amazingly dominant and like incredibly growing as they are, they have like problems with little elements of their algorithm that don't really work the way they want. They're certainly having like burgeoning issues about privacy. They have some sort of employee burnout issues. What any business, even if it's successful, has problems. And you need to get them talking about their problems. if it's not a particular problem, another good question to ask is, what areas operationally or technically do you think you can improve? So I remember talking with a manufacturer back in the Midwest about that carbon technology that I mentioned. And I just started asking them, you know, what things do you do in your company that require stuff to be really hot or stuff to not corrode? I literally asked them that. And then they started talking, oh, well, we've got these pistons. They go up to about, 700 degrees Fahrenheit. But they really have a problem. Like 700-800 is not that high compared to high melting points. The carbon will go all the way up to 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. So the bigger problem they were having was that the pistons that they use to apply glue strips to Pampers, the glue wants to stick to the piston. So they end up having to replace the pistons all the time. And all I did was just ask them, what things do you have in your company that corrode more than you would like? Or what things in your company do you have that overheat more than you would like? If I wanted to, I could even say more broadly, what is the least efficient mechanical thing in your company? What is the process in your company that takes the most time and is the biggest pain in the butt? Like, those are the kinds of ways that you can identify operational areas to improve. And then finally, you just ask the company, what are your goals? How many of product X, Y, or Z do you want to sell by the end of the year? What does that mean in terms of your process? What does that mean in terms of the wear and tear on your machines? What investments do you plan on making to upgrade the mechanical capacity in the future? You just start asking about goals. You can identify ways to reach those goals that your technology can help with, and the same things about ways that you can find that your technology can help solve problems, and ways that you can find that your technology can help with improving different operational areas. But you got to ask questions very broadly rather than starting with, hey, I have an amazing carbon fiber matrix, which is ultra heat resistant. That is not as good as asking people to say, what are the biggest problems that are going on with your piston machines? Much better to ask the second question than the first. And then finally, the last step of this process is basically a connect the dots exercise, or connect the items. So you basically want to take all of your technological benefits and features that have been described as metaphors, and you list them on the left side of a chart like this. On the right side of the chart, you list all of the different business problems, needs, operational improvement areas, goals that the company has. And then you basically force yourself to make at least one connection from every technological quality to every need. So every technological quality you have has to help with at least one of the need areas. Even if it helps 2% and it's not really that much of a help, you are not allowed to finish the exercise without connecting it to the business need area where it is most likely to produce at least some level of benefit. So every technological quality, benefit, feature has to be connected to at least one of the business needs. And in turn, you're not allowed to finish the exercise without having every business need connected to at least one feature, benefit, quality, which could help to improve it in some way or help to solve it in some way. So you're basically by this exercise, you are ending up freezing all of your technological details and qualities in terms of business needs. So when you're finished with this 4-step process, you basically have a list of metaphorically described features and benefits of your technology, which are very easy to understand for lay people, and they are connected with business needs that companies in our community here need to solve. And after that, there's some marketing and sales and so forth that goes on. But the critical step of connecting technological inventions, processes, molecules, etc., taking scientific things and turning them into terms that people in the business community can understand, and then start talking about dollars and cents for, you need to go through this 4-step process before doing anything else. So that's basically the training. We have more trainings to come. We're still kind of getting up and rolling on how to do the trainings in an organized manner. I know some people asked to do these in person too, and I will set that up. But here you go, at least for part 2 of our innovation and entrepreneurship training for NSME students, and we'll have more to come over the course of the summer. Talk to you all soon.